who were the hostages, the way many of them behaved.
The 4th came as a welcome break from the uncertainty of the last 2 weeks, when many people felt the ordeal in Beirut put national honor on the line.
Love your enemies. Do good to those who wrong you. Forgive those who have done you harm.
Welcome home salute to our conference, George Lazansky.
For ex-hostage George Lazansky, tossing out the ball for his beloved Cubs capped off a wonderful homecoming. As a group, the hostages, who know so well what it means to lose freedom, became a sort of living 4th of July symbol.
I thought about the prayers I said. And I just felt it was good, so good to be back. Excuse me.
Hey, Dad, it's okay.
You have a lot to be thankful for today.
Yeah. I thought about the 7 guys that are still back there. But I'll tell you, it's just, I just can't explain how good it is to be back home. To be able to just come out and do the things you want to do. Just to walk around. You know, to see your friends, your family.
This is probably about the best 4th of July I've ever had. And I'm very, very happy to be home. Very happy.
The day proved that unabashed patriotism takes many forms. Quiet celebrations centered on tradition, though not always precision. More boisterous ones centered on precision. Hang the tradition. This is a synchronized lawn mowing contest in Florida. There also was a watermelon festival in Alabama, a pet parade in North Carolina, and a toilet bowl derby in South Dakota. In Princeton, Louisiana, 4 generations of the Raymond family got reacquainted. And from coast to coast, new members of the larger American family met for their first day as citizens. As those new Americans joined the country's celebration, they also share the hope, anyway, that it's not just getting older, it's getting better.
People of all nationalities, of all backgrounds, feel that they're free people. This is the greatest thing which you really could have, say, proclaim, this is really Independence Day.
Susan Spencer, CBS News.
In Houston today, Alan Conwell, who served as spokesman for the hijacked TWA hostages, held a news conference to answer his critics. He began with an expression of gratitude for President Reagan.
I think that President Reagan showed an inordinate amount of courage, self-restraint, and certainly an unending dedication to securing our freedom.
Conwell has been criticized by a few fellow hostages for becoming too chummy with his captors and sympathizing with them.
I bear no grudges. I think we all need to find a deeper understanding of the circumstances that led up to people taking a desperate act.
I just couldn't conceive of such naivety that a man of this intelligence could be so completely duped. This man walked on the plain in Damascus with a damn Koran under his arm, twirling his prayer beads.
I have sympathy and understanding for the cause of the Shia Muslim, not the hijackers and not the murderers. There's a difference.
As for that famous picture of Conwell driving away from a press conference, Conwell said he only drove because his captor told him to.
I didn't enjoy the drive and I didn't have a driver's license.
Conwell said that he was removed as spokesman at the suggestion of someone in the Reagan administration. But he said he realized some of the things that he'd said were controversial, and he agreed with the choice of pilot John Testrake as spokesman when the hostages returned to this country. Lebanese state television last night broadcast taped personal appeals by family members of 4 of the 7 kidnapped Americans who remain hostages in Lebanon. Carol Weir, the wife of the Reverend Benjamin Weir, spoke in Arabic. The others spoke in English, and Arabic translations were provided. The 10-minute tape was put together through the office of Senator Jesse Helms in May, well before the TWA hijack crisis. Judith Bluen, a sister of kidnapped AP correspondent Terry Anderson, made her appeal in the name of what she called the God we all worship.
I pray that you've never and you will never suffer the torment that we have, not knowing where our brother is or how he's being treated. I beg you to let him return to his loved ones. His wife will soon bear his child. Please let him come home to be with his child.
One of the appeals made last night on Lebanese state television for the release of the remaining American hostages. The Lebanese government said today that it's begun to tighten security at the Beirut airport, which President Reagan wants to put out of business. Officials say that Army troops will patrol the airport around the clock and block the many dirt roads that give easy access to the runways themselves.
If you've put off planning your summer vacation waiting for a low airfare to fall into your lap, American Airlines has something special in the air for you. American Airlines Ultimate Super Savers. Good to all our destinations in the continental U.S. Discounts up to 70%. Fares from $39 to $149. So get moving before your summer vacation passes you by.
Something special in the air.
Young lady, what are you doing putting A1 steak sauce on your hamburger?
It's delicious.
In my day, A1 was for steak.
Oh, my dear Miss Pritchard, that's the idea. What is hamburger? Chopped ham, it's chopped steak. And what's better on steak than A1? A1 makes hamburgers taste like steak burgers.
It is rather tasty.
Yeah.
Sure. Its herbs and spices make hamburgers juicy and really tasty, like steak burgers.
As I always say, live and learn.
A1 makes hamburgers taste like steak burgers.
Some White House officials today insisted it was all part of the game plan all along, but they confirmed that President Reagan will back off for the rest of the summer and stop the hard sell for his federal tax overhaul plan. Leslie Stahl reports.
The hostage crisis sidetracked what was to have been President Reagan's great triumph of June, the selling of his tax reform package. Some administration officials say the crisis so completely dominated the agenda that critics of tax reform gained the momentum. So much so that the plan may have to be reworked, though Treasury Secretary James Baker says there's been no repudiation of the overall proposal.
The general structure of the proposal is intact. Sure, every special interest in the country is in there taking shots at the particular provision they don't like. But there's still strong sentiment on the part of the American people for tax reform.
Baker admits he may have to fix what he calls a technical problem, that the plan may increase taxes for middle-income families when both spouses work.
The plan raised the taxes on many two-earner families, and especially two-earner families with just one or two children. And when that cat was out of the bag, there was no way that you could go on with that tax plan.
And there are officials at the state level who say other provisions in the Reagan plan hurt the middle class.
Apparently the president is reading the polls. They're very good at that at the White House. And he sees that over 60% of the American people say they agree with us that disallowing deductibility for property taxes and state and local taxes is not a good thing to do.
Another problem, that over the long haul, the Reagan plan may not be what's called revenue neutral, that it may in fact increase the budget deficit.
If it's determined later on or during the course of these hearings that there's a problem on revenue neutrality, that problem will be fixed.
While Treasury officials work with Congress to adjust the tax package, the president will turn his attention to other issues, terrorism and the budget. He's not expected to focus on taxes again till September. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, the White House.
It may be the 4th of July on the calendar of most Americans, but some politicians are already acting like it's November 1988. Bruce Morton has our report.
New Hampshire is pretty in the summertime. White buildings glisten in the summer sun. And on the 4th of July, flags fly, bands play, and little towns like Bristol hold wonderful parades. But wait a minute, what's that? Isn't that a politician leading the parade? By George, it's Vice President Bush. What's he doing here on the 4th?
We leave here early tomorrow morning, head off for New Hampshire.
Oh, right, they have that primary. They have swell 4th of July parades in Iowa, too, like this one here in Clear Lake. But wait another minute. Isn't that another politician? Why, it's Congressman Jack Kemp. Oh, of course, they have those caucuses in Iowa. Running for president these days is an almost constant process. Campaign 88 really began the day after election 84. So it's not surprising to see politicians practicing this very American ritual on this very American day.
Obviously, Iowa's going to be a very important state in 1988, as it has been in the past.
Being here, let's face it, the speculation has increased so fast, the system has gotten so one election's not even over before people speculate on the other.
It is inevitable. Here they are, testing the waters, whether you're ready or not. One Kemp aide said it's going to be a very long 3.5 years. For now, you might prefer just to watch the parade. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Bristol, New Hampshire.
This couple just lost their traveler's checks. American Express traveler's checks.
Are you sure we don't have to do anything else?
But now we can have a refund delivered right to them in under 3 hours.
Maybe we should just go make another call in case they don't know we're...
So they won't miss a minute of their vacation.
Mr. Webb? Yes, your refund.
Oh,
thanks. Only American Express can deliver a traveler's check refund right to you. Don't leave home without them.
Honey, you gotta learn to relax.
Sometimes little details can slip through the cracks. So stop by a True Value hardware store where professional strength help comes ready to use with Ortho Cleanup Weed Killer or Insect Killers, just $3.44 each. Or cover a wider area with a Cervest 1.5-gallon steel sprayer, only $19.88. And give your grass something to grow on with a Cervest Dial 5 sprinkler, just $3.44, and a 50-foot reinforced vinyl hose, only $6.99 at participating True Value hardware stores.
You can tell something about the state of U.S. and Soviet relations by the way the 4th of July is observed in Moscow, and today it was obvious things are looking up. David Andelman has our report.
The annual 4th of July garden party at the American ambassador's residence in Moscow. A grim time in years past, but this year, with summit fever already in the air, the guests were all but euphoric by Russian standards.
We got a good news, but this news means no more than another opportunity, which has to be used.
The Soviets failed to send any of the top leadership today. Only an official of the Soviet parliament showed up. A calculated gesture some diplomats read as a measure of restraint. Let's see what happens next. While some curious citizens tried to sneak a peek from across the street, all Soviets got a chance to see the ambassador himself on primetime television.
Dobry вечер. 209 years ago.
For the first time in 2 years, delivering his Independence Day best wishes to the Soviet people. A speech more remarkable for the fact that it was delivered uncensored than for its standard call for peace between the two nations and better communications. Soviet television itself has been showing remarkable restraint lately in presenting the U.S., along with the usual portrayal of America as a land of poverty and mayhem. Now, there's
Amerikański jazz.
David Andelman, CBS News, Moscow.
The OPEC oil ministers open their summit tomorrow in Vienna. They are under heavy pressure to cut production to keep prices from falling, and a world now swimming in oil. But one minister charged that OPEC's real problem is cheating, that members are overproducing their quotas and selling at discounts. The controversial Unification Church leader, the Reverend Sun Myung Moon, was welcomed out of a Danbury, Connecticut prison today by some of his followers after serving almost a year of his 18-month sentence for tax evasion. From now until August 20th, the Reverend Moon will be free to work most days at his church, but will have to report each night to a New York City halfway house. This was no holiday for firefighters battling wildfires that have charred more than 140,000 acres in the West. Most of the fires are in California, and David Dow reports on the biggest fire there.
After 4 days, it remains a fire on the move, a fire that has burned through 58,000 acres of brushland and, say officials, may double that before it is stopped.
The front of the fire, the head of the fire, if you will, is still rolling. It's rolling at the rate that it wishes to go.
Firefighters fought the flames back from the city of Ojai, only to confront a new problem: to keep the flames from now burning to the coast, to the town of Carpinteria. 2 miles inland, a strike team is making a stand.
We know it's going to get here eventually because there isn't anything we can do down those steep canyons, and it's going to come here, so this is hopefully our stopping point.
The renewed efforts began last night when gusty winds whipped the flames in their new direction, exacting a new toll in farm buildings and supplies, forcing 200 more to flee.
Nobody got burnt, nobody got hurt, and all our cattle are okay. So we landed on our feet.
There were times where it looked almost like explosions without any sound.
And as fire and smoke spread through this rugged countryside, suspicions grew that the flames did not start innocently.
We think very seriously that the fires that we've had around here we suspect that it was arson.
Meanwhile, meteorologists cautiously predicted improvement in the conditions that have plagued firefighting efforts.
As far as the intense heat and the intensely low humidities that we've had for almost a week, those have peaked and recovery is right around the corner.
But the fire danger still prompted several cities to cancel 4th of July fireworks displays. Gone, too, were the usual holiday throngs at Lake Casitas, a former Olympic rowing center, now the center of a fire zone. And there was no holiday for nearly 4,000 exhausted firefighters. Just a few hours rest between battles on California's fire lines. David Dow, CBS News, near Ojai, California.
Researchers today reported that laboratory animals given access to cocaine died at almost 3 times the rate of animals who were given access to heroin. The study in the Journal of the American Medical Association journal supports theories that cocaine is more addictive and more toxic than heroin. The journal noted that there was a 91% rise in cocaine-related death in the United States from 1980 to 1983.
See this strip of metal? Watch. This is the same kind of acid that's in your stomach, only we've made it 30 times stronger. Add a little aggravation and behold, acid indigestion. Let's see what Alka-Seltzer does to it. Alka-Seltzer neutralizes the excess acid in your stomach and also speeds relief to your headache. So even if you have an iron stomach, send Alka-Seltzer to the rescue and feel it making you feel better fast.
Today, there's a real need for everyone to protect against skin cancer. A major cause is overexposure to ultraviolet rays. So every day I use Youth Guard, a moisturizer with PABA, which can help reduce the risk of skin cancer. And Youth Guard gives me the moisturizing I need, helps protect against lines and wrinkles, leaves my skin soft and smooth, feels light, not greasy. Youth Guard, the moisturizer with extra protection.
In Alaska, it's anything but business as usual for state lawmakers. They're planning a special session later this month to consider impeaching Democratic Governor William Sheffield. A grand jury recommended impeachment proceedings after investigating the way that the governor handled a $9 million contract to lease state office space. Governor Sheffield denies any wrongdoing. And there is another corruption investigation underway in the state, one involving oil tax revenues. Terry Drinkwater has our report on that.
Legend and the elders taught that the mighty bowhead whale would always be enough to sustain life through an Arctic winter. And for centuries, that is pretty much the way Eskimos survived here at the top of the world. That is, until oil and its millions of dollars of local tax revenues suddenly changed the old ways, and in the process may have brought corruption. Today, there is scandal. An audit questions the propriety of nearly $20 million in contracts awarded by this man, Eugene Brower, in his final days in office. For 4 years, he had been the mayor of the vast North Slope borough, an area as big as Minnesota. There are charges of kickbacks and excess profits in a billion-dollar public works program. A federal grand jury is investigating.
This is big, but you've got to realize that there's a lot of native corporations in Alaska. There's a lot of money. This might well just be the tip of the iceberg.
The new mayor, George Amawak, discovered his borough had amassed a bigger debt than some foreign countries, despite all its oil riches. He canceled or rewrote scores of contracts, including one for a still incomplete sewer system, which had doubled its anticipated cost. Today, most Eskimo homes still have no sanitation. In the past, contracts were awarded without competitive bidding. That, and too many outside white consultants, according to the new mayor, was a disaster for the borough.
Certainly it was a lot of money.
Were they well paid?
They were very well paid.
Mayor Amawak will not name names,
But lobbyist contractor Lou Dishner is cited in the audit. He and his pilot flew former Mayor Brower in a private jet to Palm Springs for winter vacations. Brower and Dishner would not be interviewed, but another contractor's attorney would.
Those are just allegations. Those haven't been demonstrated, and I believe that in the end it will be demonstrated that that did not occur.
The consultant's office building in Barrow was recently spattered with eggs and paint bombs. The same group of men contributed generously to Alaska's governor, who hesitated weeks before ordering a state investigation.
People want to donate money to my campaign. They want to throw every exception, and we don't know that they're bad people.
1, 2, 3, go!
Meanwhile, back on the shores of the Arctic Ocean, where the summer whaling celebrations are now underway, FBI agents are pressing their probe, which they believe will soon lead the grand jury to hand down multi-count indictments. And among the Eskimos, there is that most basic of questions asked here again and again. How could so much money have been spent and still so many people here be so poor? Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, Barrow, Alaska.
Everybody's tried to make computers easier to use. Well, now there's an ITT Extra personal computer that you can tell what to do by talking to it.
Airplane, please. Overhead view.
This ITT Extra is part of a total office communication system.
Magnify.
It'll respond to your voice or anybody else's.
Always wear your wife's fabric softener.
Oops, still using that white sheet. Try Cling Free. Your sheet's thin. Cling Free's thicker. Does more. No sheet softens better. Only Cling Free stops static and has deodorant.
Cling Free, the do-it-all softener.
Don't you two ever sleep?
She's got double trouble.
Can't sleep. Achy, too. Take new Somonex 2 pain relief formula.
The aspirin-free pain reliever plus the sleep aid most preferred by doctors. New Somonex 2 pain relief formula. Double relief or double trouble.
How do I know this is your horse?
Peyton was a drifter.
See this horse loves me.
Emmett wanted justice.
Hanging around with you is no picnic.
Mal had a score to settle. And Jake was just plain crazy.
It used to be a peaceful town.
Join them for the ride of your life. Silverado, rated PG-13.
Sneak preview Saturday night. Check newspapers for theaters.
You may find this hard to believe, but they are recalling watermelons, and they're doing it on the 4th of July. An Oregon-based grocery wholesaler and a Los Angeles supermarket chain have recalled a batch of striped watermelons because authorities said pesticide traces were found in the melons. As many as 23 people became ill after eating the melons in Oregon and California. Officials said the melons may have been contaminated by absorbing the pesticide through their roots. Finally, there was a lot of talk today about the grand and glorious old-fashioned 4th of July. But Bob McNamara reports from a town where it was more than talk.
Storms all around Seward, Nebraska this morning threatened to soak this little town's biggest day, but they didn't.
Stand beside her and guide her.
The Scouts raised the flag as they always have, and the day was underway. Pancakes on the church griddle.
Would you like 2 or 3?
Sausages on the side, the flag on the front porch. It's the way the 4th used to be in millions of small towns, but isn't as much anymore.
And people are so glad to live in Seward because Seward is a good example of the good life.
Everybody mows their yard, plants the flowers, and it's just a big deal, and we like doing it.
The water fights between local volunteer fire departments, a 10-kilometer race into the countryside for the runners, and down the street, a big wheel race for the kids. Those aren't the only reasons to grow up in a town that celebrates July 4th the way Seward does.
Because then we don't have to go anywhere else in the whole state to see the parade.
Get set, eat. Eat, eat, eat.
They have celebrated the 4th of July in Seward every year since 1868. This has been a tough year for farmers with economic troubles, but it hasn't been the worst year by far. There's concern about the world's events these days, and that has put the pride in this 4th of July.
Our place in the world has been usurped by people who feel that they have a better way of thinking about life than we do, but we still feel that our independence is one of the greatest things that this country's ever had.
And today, church bells rang across Seward to remind the town to be grateful for what it has. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Seward, Nebraska.
And that's the news. I'm Bob Schieffer, sitting in tonight for Dan Rather. Good night.
The common cockroach, designed to last millions of years, has met its match. Long-lasting Ortho Home Pest Insect Control. It kills roaches, spiders, ants, and fleas. Plus, Home Pest Control lays down a zone of protection that keeps killing for 6 weeks. That's 6 weeks or more. Long-lasting Ortho Home Pest Insect Control. Ortho works wonders.
If you're allergy sensitive, your world is ever threatening. But now there's new relief. Benadryl, the most prescribed allergy medication ever, now without prescription. Benadryl and Benadryl decongestant.
When the burning, itching, and soreness of hemorrhoids flare up, Tux medicated pads give you soothing, cooling relief on contact. For hemorrhoid flare-up, get Tux from Park Davis.
For all those people who never could warm up to computers, Lotus introduces Jazz. Jazz, the business software Macintosh was invented for.